Okay, my name is Sadina Sturgis. I am the founder and CEO of SHE OverCame LLC. We strive every day, heal from our brokenness, and encourage someone daily. The reason why I am so passionate about education is because my son was diagnosed with ADHD, ODD, mild schizophrenic with bipolarism at an early age. And literally, every day it was something negative at the school. So I was like, I don't know what I need to do, because I've worked with low income families, but I did not realize, like, is he that bad? Like, that's what I kept questioning myself with. And as a parent, I was like, I'm failing my son and I still have other children. So I went to school for social work, and it's just really broad. I started working with low income families. And then I really started, having a more passion for children with emotional and mental disabilities. So I became an emotional and mental strategist for adolescents and school-age kids. So then he was going to all these different doctors, and they was like, well, he's going to be a product of society. He would never get a regular diploma. So I invested time with him to make sure that he reached those goals that they said he would never meet. And so that's kind of where everything kind of got started. So now it's really personable for me, and I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about special need kids on all levels, because when you say special needs, it's big. I have my youngest son was premature. He did not talk until he was 5 years old, and he's met all his goals. He's exceeded, and that's because I work with him every single day, and I refuse to have people tell me no. And I learned so many different things about different organizations like Civil Rights and Education, the Special Needs Association, so that I can work with parents so they can see, oh, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And because they're our children, I just take all kids in. That's my heart. And the reason why I am just really passionate about children and women, especially those who have faced life challenging situations that was meant to destroy them, because I am a survivor of leukemia. I am a survivor of rape and molestation. I was a single parent, and so I thank God for allowing me to have a platform where I can meet people where they're at on so many different levels. So really the passion came from my own household and me wanting to change the negative theology into a positive reinforcement. And with that being said, my son still has an IEP, and he was still able to be accepted in 15 different colleges with 4 full rides, and he still has an IEP going to college. And so when I say that, people are like, it can happen if you are passionate about working with your children. Yes, it's really a roller coaster every day, and you find yourself in a dark place. You find yourself alone, but then when you find the resources and you read about a lot of this stuff, and you have somebody that has been there with a success story, you find hope. And that's what I want to give out. I want people to know that you can do it, your child can do it, and don't let other people tell you no without having a negotiable opportunity to find a better way. I've learned to meet the children where they're at. You cannot pressure any child, not just special needs, when there's a pandemic. I learned today while I was watching church on TV that we focus on scheduled things when at a time like this, nothing is scheduled. We just have to go with the flow, take a breather, and just continuously reflect on there is a better day. Better days are coming. And since I work with the school, our kids have actually been back, I would say about 2 months. We're on a hybrid schedule. We were only doing 2 days. Now we're at 4 days. When you say special needs and you're going back to school, a lot of those kids don't like wearing masks. So you have to make sure that you're protected with your gloves. You're making sure that everything is done according to the way that the regulations is, and still be able to love on that child, because they don't like wearing masks. It's a headache for any child to not be able to go on the playground, to be confined to a classroom, eating lunch in the classroom. So it is a lot for the teacher as well as the student. And so I have found that I just meet the kids where they're at. If they come in the classroom and they do good one day, I make sure that I reward them. And then it's a lot of positive reinforcement and a lot of redirection, because even as an adult, working on a schedule, for me, it has always been my thing. But right now, I'm just like, okay, I know I gotta be working at 7:30. I'll be there at 7:30, and I go with the flow. I'm not gonna always meet the needs every single day, and that is okay, just long as we cover what's important. We'll say we don't have a manual as being a parent. We try to make decisions and choices based off what we think is right for our child or ourselves. If your child is able to communicate, you always ask the question, what can I do to help you? Where can we go together to meet the needs so that both of us can be balanced and we can both grow together? When it comes down to education, really, it's all about sitting there and actually listening. Virtual learning is very difficult, especially for those children that usually make A's and B's. My son, well, my kids actually started off virtual. They did a horrible job. It was horrible. And so they asked me, Mom, I really want to go face to face. Graciously, they're in a school where they do face to face. And I saw them actually start growing. So even though I was scared, I had to meet them where they were at. They just could not handle being virtual. They needed to be in the classroom setting. And I know a lot of parents are afraid. But if your child is already failing at home because you just can't do it, take a chance. And that chance might just be award winning for your child, because not only is they getting social skills, they're actually getting the teacher's attention and can actually ask more questions. So even though we're in a pandemic, and if you're teaching your child how to wear a mask, be safe at home, I suggest them to try the face-to-face. A lot of times, a lot of districts have that option where they can go face-to-face. If they don't like it, they can still transition back at home. I've even had, my son had he was coughing one day, and I was like, you know what, you're just gonna stay home. I emailed the principal and the teachers. They said, fine. So you still have that balance, or you can do face-to-face and virtual. So they still are getting what they need to get. I do think a lot of parents did not realize how important teachers and administrators are. A lot of people said they did dislike their teachers, but now they need the teachers. And a lot of teachers said, I needed a break. So now we've had that break, and what changes are still being made. I do know that South Carolina is one of the lowest states in education. And it's simply because we don't have a lot of parental involvement. Like, I am one of the SIC representative for parents, and that is one of the things that they say, like, how are you so involved? But when you make a difference, that you want your child to be different and unique, you have to be real and transparent with your child. And I mean, starting at preschool now, you need to be sitting them down and saying, this is my expectation. And you have to understand, we're not living back in 30 years ago. We're living in now. So everything is usually technology. So if your child is failing, you have to try to figure out what is their strongest subject, and that's what you feed off of. What is their best? For me, I know my son loves soccer, so I use soccer as a learning technique for him. We're gonna do the plays into our education, and that is that's the way that he learns. I have another student in my class that loves music. Although he's nonverbal, as soon as I play a video, he's tapping into the music part of it, and he's trying to interact. So I think the biggest thing is a lot of parents are so stuck in when I went to school, but we're not there anymore. Our children mind functions on a different level. So we have to be mindful of that. The math is taught different. ELA is taught different. The teachers are not as old. So some of the teachers are just getting out of college. They have no idea of discipline or anything. So it has to start at home. And you have to sacrifice, because at the end of the day, you're responsible as a parent. I definitely say still be involved, because you're your child's voice. At the end of the day, we are there to train our child in the way that they should go. And when they're old, they'll never depart from that. And one thing I've always remembered, my mom was always involved. And even when she didn't like something, she always took the chain of command. And so I do the same thing. I'm documenting, I'm writing. There is always either a PTO or improvement board in the school. And what people don't know is you get to vote for these people to be in a seat. So without your vote, you don't matter. And they are, I would say, 68% of African American parents are not involved. When I go to a lot of these meetings, I'm usually the only chocolate person in the meeting. And when I open my mouth, they're like, what? Yes. Because the public school has discounted our children as if we don't matter. And so that is one of the reasons why I stay involved, because again, my kids don't go to a public school, but still I'm still involved in the public school because I work there. And so voting is number one. Emailing is a tracker system. So in order to be involved, you need to make sure that you're following through with the process. Emailing the teacher. I email the teachers once a week because I want to know what my child is doing. I'm always at the school. Even if they say, oh, we don't have visitors, I'm going to still sign in. And then I turn around and leave because I want my child to know that I have their back. And sometimes kids need to know that regardless they're in high school or not, the children are facing a lot of peer pressure, and they need to know that their parent is going to stand with them. They don't need me to stand with them. They need their parent to make sure. And I'm going to say something else about parents. When your child come on and tell you something, even if you don't believe it, don't tell them that you don't believe it. Still document it, because I had a situation years ago when my son was coming home every single day saying, Mama, this is happening, this is happening. And when I found out it was true, I felt so bad, because you don't want to believe that teachers hurt kids. They do. Sometimes it's not even the students that are bullying, it's the teachers. And that's why being parentally involved is so, so important, especially at a time like this. We are living in a rough time where a lot of teachers and a lot of administrators and even districts don't value parental involvement. And so it's vital, it's important. I don't care if you wasn't involved before. Tomorrow, start, because they're not expecting you to ask questions. And you have the right. You get a book every year about the rules and regulations. And if they're not doing anything, there is always a civil rights or education that you can contact. And as a matter of fact, for South Carolina, the guy name is Dan, I can't remember his last name, but he's over the South Carolina area for the civil rights. And that area is for when you cannot get to the district. So there's just a lot of resources that's available. And if you never ask, you just won't ever know. Well, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is parenting 101. And that is just teaching the basic needs of parenting. Meeting kids where they're at, learning how to communicate with your child on all levels. I do have a lot of parents that I work with that don't know how to communicate. So one of the things that I introduce to them is how to write letters to your children and have them write back. And we have to know how to, talk to our kids. You don't want to be yelling at your child and then they're yelling back. That's not going to solve anything. Learn how to keep it at a tone and go from there. And if you can't talk, write about it. And then, or calm down and later come back and say, you know what you said to me hurt my feelings. And then you guys grow from that. I will also say, spend a lot of time with your children. For me, I do mommy and son day. I have 3 sons and 1 daughter. I do mother and daughter day. And my kids are like stair steps. I have an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, 15-year-old, and a 12-year-old now. So I spend time with them one-on-one because they are all individual. So I have to, my 12-year-old, I can't yell at him at all. Well, he'll break down. So I have to meet him where he's at. And then the other program that I do, I work with women who has been sexually abused. That's, again, I've been raped and molested. So I'm passionate about women overcoming life-changing circumstances. That just where my heart is at. I know how it feels to look in the mirror and not love yourself. I know how to be walking with no direction. So I refer women back to who they really are. In your pain, there is purpose, and there's also a process of healing. So don't allow yourself to get distracted as you're going through your pain, because there was a reason for it. And sometimes God has to break us to mold us to that position, and that's what I teach women. In your brokenness, still heal, and then allow God to use you to help another woman. And try to challenge yourself every day to meet somebody and encourage them with some word to be impactful and effective. Because we live in a world that people, you just need to say, are you okay, to make sure that somebody's okay. And so that's who She Overcame is. We strive every day, we heal from our brokenness, and we encourage others to be who they are. Like, tap into who you really are.